Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome back. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. How are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Comment your name. Thank you so much for joining. Let's see who is first. Hi dear Hemo, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi dear Hajar, here is your beautiful name. Welcome to the life. Hi dear Musa, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, welcome back. Hey dear Hifzan, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hey dear Hershali, here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, you're most welcome, dear. Thank you. Hi, dear Abed. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hey, dear Sana. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you for joining. How are you? Hi, dear Keshav. Here is your good name. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, dear Bola. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Busra. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Arnav. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Leon. Here is yours. Hi, dear Zoha or Zo. Here is yours. Hi, dear Lucky. Here is your good name. Sana, your name is done, dear. Just right now. Hey, dear Lucky. Here is yours. Hi, dear Yug. How are you? Hi, Zoha. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Ramin. Here is yours. Hey, dear Kailash. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Here is yours. Hey, dear Taylor. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Nikita. Here is yours. Hi, dear Simi. Here is your beautiful name. Sorry, dear Sana. Don't be like that. Hi, dear Liana. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Dave. Here is yours. Hi, dear Husna. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Liane. How are you? Hey, dear Zahra. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Marva. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Daria. Here is your good name. Hi, thank you. You're most welcome, dear. Hi, dear Olia. Here is yours. Hey, dear Muzan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Umar. Here is yours. Hi, dear SL. Here is your good name. Hi, dear. Let's see who is next. Amen. Hey, dear Amen. Here is yours. Thank you so much, dear. Hi, dear Imna, here is your good name. Hey, dear Betul, here is yours. Hi, dear Busra, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Jannat, here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Isha, here is your beautiful name. Hey dear Yuna, here is yours. Hey dear Malak, here is a good name. Hi dear Aman, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Sangmo, here is yours. How are you? Have a good day. Hi dear Fulia, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Muskan, here is yours. Have a good day. Hi, dear Valika, here is your good name. Hi, dear Muskan, here is yours. Hi, dear Noah, here is your good name. Hi, dear Jamila, how are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Phyllis. Here is your good name. How are you? Thank you so much, dear. Hi, dear Usman. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Leo. Here is yours. Hi, dear Lela. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Purvi, here is yours. Hey, dear Gaspard, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Swarlin, here is yours. Have a good day. Hey, dear Esma, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Helen, here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Sirin, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Oh, what is your good name? Lakshmi? Here is yours. Thank you so much, dear, for joining. Hey, dear Lina, here is your good name. Hi, dear. Oh, lots of love, dear. Thank you so much. What is your good name? Oh, Malak. Thank you. Hi, dear Kavya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Brigade. Here is yours. Thank you so much for subscribing. Hi, dear Ibrar. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ines. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mia. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Nizi. Here is yours. Hi, dear Fatima. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Shag. Here is yours. Hi, dear. Can you remember my name? Hi, welcome back. What is your good name? Hi, dear Noah. Here is yours. Hey, can you give me, dear, a little hint? Just a little hint. Hey, dear Maria. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hey, dear Aryam. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sipkaji. I am good. How about you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Zia. Here is yours. Hey, dear Royam. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Vanya. Here is yours. Hello, dear Nexo. How are you? Hi, dear Riley. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Ziljan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Abhishek. How are you? Here is your good name. Hi, dear. Thank you so much. Yeah, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Helen. Here is yours. Hey, dear Luke. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Christian. Here is your beautiful name. Have a good day. Hi, dear Timmy. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Kim. Here is yours. Hello, dear Jannat. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Sammy. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Faxridin. What a unique name you have. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kiara. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Rauf. Here is yours. Hi, dear Aunt Anaya. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Rayhan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Eva. Here is yours. Hi, dear Zara. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Don't forget to double tap on your screens and let's see who is next. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Luki. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Malak. Here is yours. Hi, dear Abira. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Vinita. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hassan. Here is your good name. Hey, dear Devanshi. Here is yours. Lots of love. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Arjun. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Golam. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Kunal. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hamda. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ayla. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Nakib. Here is yours. Hey, dear Prachi. How are you? Welcome back. Hi, dear Mishti. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Lily. Here is yours. Hi, dear Vivan. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Sumera. Here is your beautiful name. Let me change the brush. Hey, dear Darona. Here is yours. Hi, dear Adrian. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Kelly. Here is yours, Kelly. Hey, dear Imran. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Anaya. Here is yours. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Isnur. How are you? Hey, dear Jackson. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Avantika. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Mohit. Here is yours. Hello, dear Lily. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Zoya. Here is yours. Be loved. Hi, dear Nina. Here is your good name. Hello. What are you saying, dear? Be positive. Hey, dear Aya. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hunter. Her name was done twice, but I don't know why she is doing that stuff. Hey, dear Zoya, here is yours. Hello, let's see who is next. Irina. Hi, dear Irina. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Anika. Here is yours. Hey, dear Leo. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Yusuf. Here is yours. Hello, dear Suka. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Kesa. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Next. Hi, dear Afan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Asil. Here is yours. Hi, dear Darsh. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Selma. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Sika. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Lana. Here is yours. Hi, dear. What is your name? Arisha. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Calvin. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hunter. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Abby. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hamza. Here is yours. Hello, dear Zainab. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Giovanna. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Samira. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Danny. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Irina. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mir. Here is yours. Hello, dear Camel and Kelly. Okay, let's try for you, dear. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sunny. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Pooja. Here is yours. Hey, dear Brianna. Lela was done, dear, but if you want a screenshot, so let me know. Do let me know. Hi, dear Brianna. Here is yours. Oh, Joaquin, welcome back. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Salar. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Lela. Here is yours. Hey, dear Santa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Yashne. Yashne. Yashne, here is yours. Hi, dear Antonia wants a screenshot. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi. Oh, you want a screenshot. Sorry, I forgot. Antonia, here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Go for it, dear, if you want a screenshot of your name. Hi, Musa. Welcome. Hey, Naira. How are you? Hi, dear Sejin. How are you? Hello, dear Hassan. Yes. Just give her 1 second. She is taking screenshot. And don't forget to double tap on your screens. Afaf. Okay, dear Afaf. Let's see who is next. Mm-mm-mm. Hello everyone. Oh, welcome back. Edwarda, hi. Musa, Elena. Hi, dear Musa. Here is your beautiful name. Here is yours. Hi, Naira. Welcome, dear. Lily, okay. Hi, dear Afaf. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear. Yes, I am good. How about you? Hi, dear Razan. Here is yours. Hello, dear Lily. Here is yours. Hi, dear Edwarda. Hello, dear Edwarda. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Naira. Here is yours. Let's see who is next, guys. Hi, dear Imad. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Malu. Here is yours. Hey, dear Lama. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Afak. Here is yours. Hey, dear Lucia. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Leo. Here is yours. Hey, dear Edward. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Reva. Here is yours. Hello, dear Kausar. Here is your good name. No, Subgaji. Hi, dear Herman. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Gaurav. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sophia. Here is yours. Hey, dear Rukaya. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Nikhil. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello. Hi, welcome. What's a good name, dear? Hi, dear Clara. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Yumna. Here is yours. Hello, dear Ade. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Lucius. Here is yours. Thanks, you're most welcome, dear. Don't forget to double tap on your screen, guys. Hi, dear Saharas. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ari. Here is yours. Hi, dear Soha. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Alexandra. Here is yours. How are you, Alexandra? Hello, dear Purvasha. What a beautiful name you have. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kanika. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Jojo. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Julia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Zan. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Huran. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Wasim. Here is yours. Hello, dear Bree. Here is yours. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing, dear. Hi, dear honey. Here is yours. Lots of love. Hi, dear Samira. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear mate. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Erican. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Harry. Here is yours. Hello, dear Sudan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Martin. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Daniel. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Oh, thank you so much. Lots of love, dear. Hi, dear Kale. Here is yours. Hi, dear. Are you sure? Let me check the. My name Firash. Hey, dear Firash. Here is yours. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Ella. Here is a good name. Hey, dear Zahra. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Tia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Amanat. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Nax. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ikra. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Hazel. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Razia. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear King Von. Here is yours, King Von. Okay, Musa and Imahan. Here is yours. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hi, dear Gia. How are you? Hello, dear Gia. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Ares. Here is yours. Ares. Let me check the spelling. Ares. What a beautiful name you have. Hey, dear Anas. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Walaikum salam. Asad. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Ahmed. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Okay, let me write for you, dear. Ecilia. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Anna. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Agate. Here is yours. Hi, dear. You're most welcome. Nanan, here is yours. Hey, dear Sammy, here is your good name. I am good. How about you? Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens and let's see who is next. Hi, dear Elliot. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hassan. How are you? Here is your good name. Hi, dear Sahib. Here is yours. Hello, dear Qadar. Oh, what a unique name you have. Here is yours. Hello, dear Jiuns. Here is yours. Hi, dear Prachi. How are you? It is a good name. Hey, dear Natick. Here is yours. Hi, dear Tanveer. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Lion. Here, hello, hi. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Judy. Here is yours. Hello, dear Isa. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Amal. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Sandy. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Chavez. Okay, dear, here is yours. Let's see who is next. Tabassum. Hi, dear Tabassum. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Here is yours. Hey, dear Gosia. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Zahra. Here is yours. Hi, dear. Okay, dear Chavez, your name was done, but please don't spam. Hi, dear Cian. Here is yours. Hi, dear Honey. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Llama. Here is your good name. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Arham. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sajid. Here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screen. Hi Rohit, welcome back. How are you? Here is yours. Hello, dear Lana. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Godiva. What a unique name you have, man. ठीक हो आप कैसे हो रोहित? I am good. How about you? Hi, dear Ryan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mahara. Here is yours. Hello, dear Cassie. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Shika. Here is yours. Let's see who is next, guys. Don't forget to press the like and subscribe button. Hello, dear Alicia. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Vera. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Unnati. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ramin. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Raja. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Maria. Here is yours. Hi, dear Dua. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Carmen. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Krishna. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, dear. Let's see who is next. Yovax. Hi, dear Yovax. Here is your good name. Hi, dear. What is your name? Hina. Here is yours. Hi, dear Alreem. How are you? Welcome back. Muski for you, dear Rohit. Hi, dear Elena. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Bhavya. Here is yours. Thank you so much for your love and support, dear. Lots of love. Hi, dear Raja or Andrea? Andrea, here is yours. Hi, dear Nocture. Here is yours. You're most welcome. Hi, dear Hassan. Here is your good name. Umad. Hi, dear Umad. Here is yours. What a unique name you have. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, dear Tanvi. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hi, dear Mubashira. How are you? Here is yours. Mubashira. Hi, dear Kasim. Here is yours. Hi, dear Jolly. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Lian. Here is yours. Hey, dear Amen. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Anna. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Huh? Edel, here is yours. Hi, dear Manon, here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Huma, here is yours. I am good. How about you, dear? Hey, dear Gary, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sage, here is yours. Hi. Oh, what is your name? Dear comments are moving fast, so I can't see your ID name. What is your name? Hi, dear Hamid. Are you Safu? Harsh. Hi, dear Harsh. Here is yours. Lots of love, dear. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Hamza. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Bucky. Here is yours. Hey, dear Myra. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Kiri. Here is yours. Hello, dear Rajiha. How are you? Let's see who is next. How are you? Sorry, I was offline because I was eating food. Oh no, no, it's okay, dear. Enjoy your meal. Hi, dear Ira. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Isa. Oh no, Ayush. Oh, Ayush. Here is yours. Hi, dear Neha. Here is your beautiful name. Let's see who is next. Uh, okay. Hi, dear Agile. Here is your good name. Rohit first. Don't do this. Yes, I do live every day, dear. Hi, dear Lian. Here is yours. Hello, dear Shreya. It is a good name. Michael Jackson. Hi, dear Ayush. Here is yours. Hi, dear Lavin. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Rayan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Zarni. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Yamal. Here is yours. Thank you so much for your precious time, dear Rohit. Bye. Take care. Hi, dear William. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Fayron. Here is yours. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button there. Thank you, Rohit. What, what are you saying? Rohit Bhai. Okay, bro code. Thank you so much, Rohit, bro. Hi, dear. Here is yours. I am 12. Oh, you are such a cutie pie. Thank you so much. Good night. Bye. Hi, dear Lily. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sophia. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Soya. Here is yours. Hello, dear. I am not 12. Oh my god, I am not 12. I was reading a comment. Hi, dear Yahya. Here is yours. Hello, dear Asam. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Kevin. Here is yours. Hi, dear Aubrey. Lots of love. Thank you so much. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Raja. Reva. Here is yours. Hi, dear server. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mirika. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear Sanmati. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear. Ow. Badshah, Badshah, Alese. Here is yours, dear Alese. Hi, dear Sosa. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Hadira. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Don't forget to double tap on your screen, guys. Hey, dear. Takisha, here is yours. Let's see who is next. Next. Hi, dear Rishi. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Subhan. Here is yours. Guys, double tap on your screens. And don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hi, dear Zoe. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mayur. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Reha, here is yours. Hello, dear Malak. Here is yours. Hi, dear Veena. How are you? Hello, dear Veena. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Zaina, here is yours. Hey, dear Camila, here is your beautiful name. Lots of love. Hi, dear Shive, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Zaina. Zaina was done and I am writing it again. Hi, dear Lucia. Lucia. Here is yours. Okay, okay. Ken Harshu. Ken Harshu. For you, dear. Wants a screenshot? Go for it. Hi, Taha. Welcome, guys. Let's see who's gonna be the 100 liker. And don't stop double tapping. Double tap on your screen. She is taking screenshot, so just give her 1 minute. Hi, Aziz. Hi, Taha. Hello, everyone. Hi, dear Taha. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Marwa. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Bree. How are you? Hey, dear Hope. It is a good name. Hi, dear Dana. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Rahat. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Nathan. Here is yours. Thank you so much for subscribing. Hey, dear Jalab. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Naomi. Here is yours. Hi, dear Baru. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Saren. Here is yours. Hi, dear Nafisa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Olivia. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear. True. Here is your welcome back, dear Daniel. How are you doing? Hey, dear Kavya. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Tahir. Here is yours. Hi, dear Maha. Guys, double tap on your screens. Screens. Maha was done, and it's okay. Maha. Hi, dear Manvi. Here is yours. Hello. Thank you so much, dear. Hi, dear Humesa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear DJ. Here is yours. Hello, dear. Let me check your name, dear. What is your name? DAFADZWA. Here is yours. Hi, dear Gizane. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hey, dear Darius. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Vera. Here is yours, Kavya. Hi, dear Kavya. Why not, dear? Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Double tap on your screens. Kavya is taking screenshot. Just give her 1 minute to take. Let's see who is next. Hey, dear Eva, how are you? Thank you for the compliment. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mina. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Aziz. Here is yours. Hello. Thank you so much, dear. Hi, dear. Let's write Michael Jackson. For you, dear. Tahir. Okay, Tahir. Just give me 1 minute. Oh, 1 second. Hey, dear Tahir. Here is yours. Hello, dear Hamaisa. How are you? Tahir is taking of screenshot. Hey dear Easter, how are you? Hello dear Hamesa, here is your beautiful name. You also want a screenshot, so go for it. Hey dear Safa, how are you? Hello dear Jeffrey. Hi dear Laiba, how are you? Hello, dear Laiba. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sarah. Here is yours. My name is Ishal. Hey, dear Maria. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Lukid. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hilola. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you so much, dear. Hey dear Alex, here is yours. Hi dear Emilia, here is your beautiful name. Hello dear Fahad, here is yours. Glad you liked it, dear. Thank you so much. Hey dear Laura, how are you? Here is yours. Hi dear Sofa, here is your beautiful name. Hi, hi dear Yahya, here is yours. Confused about the life timings? Don't need to be confused. Just have to. Hi Radhesham ji. Just have to press the subscribe button and then press all. You will get the notification. Okay, so far. Here is yours. Or otherwise, I am thinking to update the description of my channel, so I'll add the live timings. Hi dear match day, here is yours. Why not? Dear, you are such a sweetie pie. Hey dear Sajia, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Nitik, here is yours. Nitik, Nitik लिखना था, क्या लिख दिया मैंने? Nitik, here is yours. I subscribed you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Clonix, come on. Okay, Clonix. After this, hi, I am back. Do you remember my name? मेरा नाम मुझे से अगर याद है तो आपका क्या नाम है? मुझे भूल गया सच में. Sorry. Hi, dear Clonix. With double L or single L? CLLO or CLO? Okay. Oh. Nix. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining, dear Clonix. And come on, double tap on your screens. Don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hi, dear V1. Here is yours. Okay, Jeffrey. Hi, dear Jeffrey. Here is yours. Hello, dear Arohi. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Zoe. Here is yours. Hi, dear Abby. How are you? That was so beautiful. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, dear Taha. Here is your good name. Amira. Hi, Amira. My name is Ishar, dear. Hi, dear Amira. Here is your beautiful name. Walaikum assalam. कौन है? सैफू, सैफू. मुझे लगा पता नहीं फिर से राधे श्याम जी हैं. Hi dear Ella, here is yours. Hello dear Hareen, here is a good name. Thank you so much dear. I did it. Thank you. Hi dear Sanisha. Here is yours. How are you? Sarah. Okay, Sarah. Sarah. Hi, dear Sarah. Here is your beautiful name. You have such a beautiful name, dear Sarah. Hey, dear Lokesh. Here is yours. Guys, don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hi, dear Safu. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Let's see who is next. Hey, dear Cash. How are you? Thank you so much. Here is yours. Hi, dear Tejas. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Aslam. Here is yours. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Hi, dear Anna. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear crochet. मुझे आता नहीं है बट मेरी दादी मास्टर थी क्रोशेट की बट मुझे कुछ नहीं आता उसका दादी जान. Hi, dear Eminem. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Mons. Here is yours. Hello, dear Leon. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Annie. Here is yours. Hello, dear. क्या कर लो? वो क्या होता है? Hi, dear Karna. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Tommy. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Wills. वो months मतलब? Hi, dear Zunera. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hey, dear Canal. Here is your beautiful name. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens. And there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Hi, dear Diksha. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Lemmy. मुझे आता है मतलब अभी मैं अपर बिगनर हूँ. ओह अच्छा टैलेंटेड तो फिर भी आप बहुत हो. बिगिनर से एक दिन प्रो भी बन जाओगे. Hi, dear Anushri. Here is yours. Hey, dear Lara. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Gion. Here is yours. Hey, dear Shaza. Here is your beautiful name. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens and let's see who is next. Hi, dear Dua. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kaya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ayanmir. Here is yours. What a beautiful name you have. Here is yours. Hi, dear Godspeed. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear BDS for you, dear Army. Hello, dear. Oh, Azrial. Here is yours. क्या आप मेरी फ्रेंड का नाम लिखोगी प्लीज इशार. क्या नाम है बताइए. Hi, dear Malika. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Sophia. Here is yours. Hey, dear Julia. Here is your beautiful name. Safu. फिर से शुरू हो गया भाई. Here is mine. Hello, dear Hina. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Atif. Here is yours, guys. Double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. अभी तो मैं शॉर्ट्स बनाने का ट्राई कर रही हूँ लेकिन आई फेड मिस्टेबली ट्राई इट्स ओके ट्राई करते रहो आ जाएगा आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बस रुकना नहीं डियर. Hi, dear Asma. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Lara. Here is yours. Hey, dear Marram. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Kinsley. Here is yours. क्या लिखूं? मैंने लिखा तो था अभी शाल मैंने लिखा था. मैंने कहा नहीं here is mine. अरे सैफू आपने देखा ही नहीं. कोई बात नहीं भाई. Here is mine. मैं yours नहीं बोलूँगी बिल्कुल भी. Hi dear Mahira, here is yours. Hello dear Kiran. Thank you, you're most welcome. Here is yours. Hi dear Unajas, here is your good name. Hi dear Babita, here is yours. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hi dear Daniel, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Zona M, okay. आज कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है. राधे श्याम जी कैसे हैं आप? दही भल्ले खाने हैं किसी ने? दही भल्ले नो पॉपकॉर्न है. पॉपकॉर्न खाने हैं किसी ने? Hi dear Alicia, here is yours. How are you? Hi dear Trevit, here is your good name. How are you? Hey dear Kavya, here is your good name. Hi dear Radhika, here is yours. Nice meeting you too, dear. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you so much for joining. आते रहिएगा. Hi dear Ayansh, here is yours. Hey dear Mark, here is yours. Hi dear Zam, here is a good name. Hi dear Ishfa मुझे लगा मैंने लिख लिया. Ishfa, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Priyanshi, here is yours. How are you? आपने लिखना भूल क्या? हाँ मैं भूल गई हूँ शायद. अच्छा जो रोज आते हैं ना उनको पता चल गया है मैं कितनी बुड़क्कड़ हूँ भाई. भुलक्कड़. अभी मैं कोई नाम बोलूँगी बाद में मैं वो लिखना ही भूल जाऊँगी. You're most welcome. Hey dear Isabella, here is yours. Hi dear Samuel, here is yours. Hey dear Siyud, here is a good name. Hi dear Salma, here is yours. Hi dear Alicia, here is yours. मुझे लगता है मुझे पता नहीं क्यों ऐसा लग रहा होता है जैसे मैंने लिख लिया ये लेकिन लिखा नहीं है मैंने है ना. I am fine. अपना बताओ. मैं भी ठीक हूँ भाई बस. Hi dear Martina, here is yours. How are you? Hey dear LA, here is yours. Hi dear Yunchai for you. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. Yunchai. Hey dear Iliana, here is yours. How are you? Hey dear Jano, here is your beautiful name. एक minute. Sarah. Here is yours. Hi, dear Aisha. Here is your good name. If signature means Isha signature, I am right. I know I am smart. Hi, you are editing, looking good. Thank you with welcoming. You're most welcome, but this is live, dear. Hi, dear Zakaria. Here is yours. Thank you so much for the compliment. Hey, dear Ahmed. Here is yours. Hi, dear GIADA. Here is yours. Okay, मैं ये लिख लेती हूँ वरना मैं फिर भूल जाऊंगी. एक मिनट ठहरो. XONAZIMOANY. It's hard to pronounce for me, but here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens and let's see who is next. Faiza. Welcome, dear Faiza. How are you doing? Have a good day. Hi, dear Faiza. Here is your beautiful name. My name is Super Cali. मुझे नम नम नम नम बस एक दिन सीख लेना है मैंने ये बोलना बट मुझे आता नहीं अभी. खुशबू. Here is yours. Hi, you're most welcome. Hi, dear Elisa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Alif. Alif, here is yours. Hi, dear Ruman. Here is your beautiful name. How are you, Rosie? Yeah, welcome back. Here is yours. Hi, dear Saloni. Here is your beautiful name. Guys, we are stuck on 133. So please don't forget to double tap on your screens. पक्का ये किसी और का नाम ले रही होगी. इतना मुश्किल नाम शायद रैंडम नेम नहीं. ये रैंडम नहीं, ये नेम नहीं है. ये एक वर्ड है जो कि 3-4 वर्ड से लेके बना है. Mustafa. Here is yours. Hi, dear. You're most welcome. Rahi. Here is your good name. How are you? Hey, dear Parsnip. Here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens. We are literally stuck on 134.5. Can we make it 140 at least? 40? Hi, dear 140. Hi, dear Rania. Here is yours. Hello, dear Elisa. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Earl. What a unique name you have. Hi, dear धीरज. Here is your beautiful name. क्या लगता है आपको बताओ. Guess करके बताओ. Hi, खुशबू. हाँ, खुशबू लिखना था. खुश. अरे अरे. Hello, dear Khushbu. Here is yours. Hi, dear Felix. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ibrahim. Here is yours. How are you? Another Sarah. Hello, dear Sarah. How are you? Hi, dear Ananya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Shamiga. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Umar. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Zayan. Here is yours. Hey, dear Milana. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Tana. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Sonia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Dorian. Here is your beautiful name. What a unique name you have. Guys, double tap on your screen. Now we are stuck on 38. 138. Have a nice day to you too, dear. Hi, dear Amaya. Here is yours. Hello, dear Nisa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Oh, hard to read the capital letters. Farah. Hi, dear Farah. Here is yours. You're most welcome, dear. Hi, dear Federica. Federica. Here is yours. Hello, dear Carmen. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Sergio. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Arsh. Here is yours. Let me write for you. TOSMUSIYNA. Here is yours. Hi, dear Isha. Here is yours. Hello, dear Denisa. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Isa. Here is yours. Hi, dear Al-Shifa. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Humero. Here is a beautiful name. How are you? Have a good day. Hi, dear Priyanshu. How are you? Here is yours. Priyanshu. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mustafa. How are you? Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Bye, dear Rosia. Thank you for your precious time. Good night or good day. Hi, dear Ehram. Here is yours. Hey, dear Easy. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Rasha. Here is yours. Hello, dear Santi. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Umehani. Jandrik. Welcome, Jandrik. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Jandrik. Oh, ho. Umehani. What I am doing? Umehani. Here is yours. Guys, double tap on your screens. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hi, dear Rosa. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Baron. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Francesco. Francesco. You're most welcome, dear Ume. Don't forget to double tap on your screen, guys. Let's see who is next. Turkey. Merhaba. Niselsen. İnsanlara hoş geldiniz. Hi, dear Muhammad. Here is yours. How are you? Madison. Thank you so much, dear Madison. Here is yours. Thank you for the compliment. Here is your beautiful name. Hi. Okay, so bye and take care. Oh, bye bye, dear. Take care. Hello, dear Jolly. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mehriban. Welcome back. How are you? Here is a good name. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens. And now it's time to end the stream. Double tap. Hi, dear Rubama. Here is yours. Hello, dear Karim. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Jabin. Here is yours. Hi, dear Manya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Navi. Here is yours. Hi, dear Altan. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Jibin. Here is your Senithmi. Senethmi. Hi, dear Lana. Here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens, and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Hello, dear Diona. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Isaac. Here is yours. Hi, dear Yuji. Here is yours. Okay, now looking for the last name for this stream. And let's see who is next. Akhil. Hi, dear Akhil. Here is yours. Hello, dear Ollie. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Alex. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sophia. Here is a beautiful name. Hey, dear Rasap. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mukaddas. Here is yours. Hello, dear Akhtar. Here is yours. Hi, dear Oliver or Oliver. What is your name, dear? Could you please confirm? Hi, dear Clara. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kiki. Here is your not yet. Safu. Abhi nahi. Hi, dear Mario. Here is yours. Hi, dear Manoj. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Karan. Here is yours. Hello, Oliver. Hey, dear Oliver. Here is yours. And Oliver. Okay, Kane. Kane is the last name for this stream, guys. Now it's time to end the stream. Don't forget to double tap on your screens, and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you for your support and love. Love you all. Bye. क्या हुआ है सैफू क्यों हंस रहे हो भाई निहाल मनीषा थॉमस निहाल मनीषा एमिलिया अभिशा एना hello hi Sata okay guys double tap on your screens and Swati looking for the last name for this stream, and I think Ronaldo is the best option. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care. Good night. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your life. Bye. See you tomorrow. Till then, take care. Bye.